Hey guys, you're in a nutshell with me, Ina. Kabilang ba kayo sa mga naiipit dito sa napakatinding problema ng processing backlogs, especially in specific PR pathways, no? Mamaya pag-uusapan natin yan. Naiisip nyo ba, makatarungan pa ba itong processing time na pinagdadaanan ko? Yung mga nakasulat dyan sa IRCC. Sorry guys, wala blue-blue yung kamay ko, nakakaloka. Okay, makatarungan pa ba itong sinasabing mga processing time sa IRCC portal? Ano ba ang pwede kong gawin kung talagang feeling ko hindi na yata tama 'to, itong, ginagawa nila 'no, sa mga pending applications? Yan ang ating pag-uusapan. Kasama, of course, our suke, Attorney Lou, who is, by the
Hello.
way, in ano ngayon, nasa airport ng Abu Dhabi. Alam niyo naman na palipat-lipat
May
dito kung sa
parang may quitis sa labas.
ay, uy, grabe, wag kang ganyan.
Wag naman. Parang kalma
Oo.
naman. Yan.
Wait guys, oh my gosh, napansin ko. Dahil sa mga laro-laro ng anak ko, no, ang hirap hugasan ng food coloring sa kamay. Sa totoo lang, nakakaloka. Anyway, okay, Attorney Lou, yung title natin. Stuck in the processing backlog, makatarungan pa ba? My first question, I guess, is, ano ba, meron bang remedy? Meron bang pwede gawin? At what point pwede gawin ng isang applicant na naghihintay makarinig sa IRCC, no? Kung palagay nila, sobrang matagal na,
Sobrang
hindi na yata
tagal.
makatarungan itong waiting time na nangyayari.
It's a very current discussion given yung current backlogs ngayon ng applications at yung disclosure ng IRCC nga when it comes to normal processing times, diba? Yung average processing times. May mga remedies pa? Yes, meron actually. Simulan natin sa IRCC, tas after that, punta tayo sa MPs, tas after that, punta tayo sa federal court. Kasi, minsan, pwede ka rin mag-web form Tapos i-explain mo yung circumstances mo sa IRCC officer. Kasi kung in process na, naka-assign na sa officer yung papel mo, paminsan may puso din sila. Tao din naman yung mga yan. Na-meet ko rin yung iba sa kanila. Okay din lang. Talagang pwede mo rin naman talagang pakiusapan kung ano na yung situation. So, I had a case once na pasok siya dun sa interim pathway for caregivers. This was around 2019 na nagkaroon ng programa na ganun. Tapos, 60 days into the submission pa lang kami nun. Tapos biglang, sadly, may family emergency, someone passed away, and naka-maintain status siya, or at that time, implied status. May kasamang work permit application yung sinubmit namin. And ang labas nito, kapag bumalik siya, as a, kasi nga naka-maintain status siya, diba? Or implied at the time. Pagka lumabas siya, yung authorization niya to work, mawawala. So pipiliin niya, diba? Napaka-hard nung choice. Uuwi ba siya to see loved ones in a time of like grieving, diba? Or magsistay ba siya, grieving from Canada, not with loved ones, to maintain yung authorization to work. So that's really cruel, diba? Actually, kinikilabutan ako, nag-goosebumps ako. So I remember that case. Tapos ang ginawa ko, nag-web form ako at in-escalate ko. There are ways to escalate with IRCC. So if you need that kind of help, speak to your lawyer kung meron kayo. Kasi sometimes we exchange notes in the immigration bar kung sino mga pwedeng makausap. So in an event, that's what I did. And lo and behold, Ina, will you believe it? The same day, I got a reply from an officer. And for some reason, sabi nila, sige, bigyan mo ako nito mga document na to. Binigay ko kaagad. Kasi sabi ko, nag-respond ka agad. Kailangan mag-respond ka in kind, diba? Kasi kung urgent, dapat urgent din, diba? Ma'am, next day, na-approve in principle.
Wow, so it works. Okay.
Sometimes it works. Sometimes talagang kung may explain mo yung circumstances dun sa officer. So, nakita naman ng officer na ipit. Kasi in transition siya from temporary residence to PR. And kapag ka umalis nga, disruption to sa healthcare sa Canada kasi nga healthcare worker. On the other hand, papipiliin mo, would you want to be with loved ones? So tao din naman, naapektuhan yung officer. So I suppose yung officer, ginawa niya, clear niya sa supervisor, tapos sinet aside lahat ng mga files, tabawiin ko to, tapusin ko to this afternoon, bigay niya lang sa akin ng mga datos at papeles na kailangan ko. Ginawa namin, the next day na approve, talagang na-shock kami. At ang ginawa namin, yun nga, talagang pinaspasan namin that week. Nakuha namin yung COPR kasi hindi pa e-COPR nun. Nakuha namin yung COPR, tapos pinauwi na namin para pag-land niya, pabalik na sa Pilipinas. Pabalik ng Canada rather. So, PR na siya pagbalik niya. O, di ba?
Oh,
So,
oo
kung minsan,
nga. Okay. Will it only work for certain applications na parang nasa certain specific level na in the application process? Would you only give it
yes.
a shot, let's say, kapag may AOR na? Or ano man, yeah. At
Mhm.
what level can you consider that?
That's really good instinct on your part. Kailangan may AOR na, kailangan nasa sistema
No.
na. Kasi in that
Okay.
situation, sinwerte kami na yung file na i-assign na sa isang officer who will process. Kasi kung
Okay.
wala pa siyang file number, paano nila hahanapin yun, di ba? Halongkatin pa nila. And at that time, Ina, remember, paper-based na mga application. So literally, papasok sila sa mailroom. Literally, hahanapin nila yun. Magja-jump ka ng
Oo.
queue. So halos
Okay.
imposible. Not sure kung nakakita ka na ng picture ng mailroom ng IRCC noon.
Hindi pa.
Nakakaloka. May
Talaga?
initip yung kakilala ko. I think it was Steven Merens who atip the picture. Sabi nila,
Oh,
pa-atip
wow.
naman ang itsura ng mailroom. Nakita naman yung picture, sabi, grabe yung stante talaga ng mga papeles, boxes, tas andon. Literal, Ina, paminsan may mga may iwan ng mga papel kasi paper-based, di ba? So, paano sabihin, hindi mo sinama yung police certificate sa application mo, yun pala nahulog. Di ba?
Right, right.
Pwedeng ganun. Kaya actually, ang laking ginhawa na online ngayon. Sa totoo lang.
So, hold on, Lua. Let us just be clear na itong mga tips na ibibigay mo sa mga options nila, no, sa long waiting time, only apply sa mga may AOR na at the very least. Baka kasi yung sabihin nung ilan, meron lang akong profile, no, that does not count, no. Hindi pa kayo para dito sa
Wala pang
humingi ng
application yun kung profile yan
Oo.
di ba?
Oo.
So
kailangan may
depende kung nasaan
AOR na.
stage.
Right. Okay. O sige, puntahan ngayon natin. Ano ba yung mga
Susunod na
specific
escalation. May dalawa pa. May dalawa pang
sorry, go
escalation.
ahead. Okay.
Sige. Okay, sorry. Breakdown natin na mabilis. Yung pangalawang escalation, punta kayo sa MP nyo, patulong kayo. Tingnan ninyo. Pero just like with pakikiusap sa IRCC officer ng derecho, limited din yung kapangyarihan ng MP. Sa Canada kasi, yung mga MP, representante nyo sila, check and balance, pero hindi naman sila yung pwede magdikta ng desisyon sa officer. So, pwede nilang i-check yung status, pwede nilang questionin kung bakit ganun yung pag-decide or pag-process. Halimbawa, kung merong unfairness na inherent dun sa sobrang kitang-kita talaga. Paminsan, depende rin yan kung sino yung MP nyo. Kung yung MP constituency officer ninyo magaling talaga mag-push with IRCC, nakita namin kasi we've worked with different clients who live in different constituency. May mga officers minsan na magaling na makipag-nego or makipag-usap sa IRCC. Kadalasan mga nag-practice in immigration din talaga. So, shout out kay Gabriel Estable sa Quebec. Kasi immigration consultant siya, tapos nagtatrabaho siya as constituency officer. So alam niya kung paano mag-communicate with IRCC. So tignan ninyo. Hindi ko na lang sasabihin, merong isang MP sa may GTA, bandang Brampton. Sasabihin kung sino, hindi ko na sasabihin kung aninong partido. I really do not like working with that particular MP's constituency officer because may favoritism. Pangalawa, hindi talaga sila namamansin at hindi sila magre-reply sa mga requests. Kailangan talaga, sasabihin pa namin sa kliyente namin, pumunta kayo physically dun sa constituency office. So, yun.
Malaking bagay din talaga kung cooperative bali yung MP office.
Yes, oo. Pangatlo, federal court. Mabilis din lang. Sa federal court naman, meron tayong tinatawag na application for a writ of mandamus. It's basically an order from the court na sasabihin sa gobyerno, hoy, kayo, gawin nyo ang trabaho nyo. Kasi pwede kasing nangyari, nakalimutan, nakaligtaan, or talagang inupuan. So itong mandamus, or in the Philippines, we call it mandamus, parang, from Latin kasi siya, di ba? In Spanish, actually, you can hear it, mandar, which is to order. Ganon.
Okay.
Kaya nga tawag natin sa Tagalog, di ba, minamando. Yun. So yun yung origin ng mando. So itong mandamus or mandamus, isang application sa court na if-force yung government to actually, produce a decision. And in the most extreme circumstances, meron din tayong tinatawag na substituted decision. It's not the place of the court to do substituted decisions normally. Kailangan sobrang tagilid na taligilid na dapat talaga yung decision and yung decision maker and yung proseso. Sobrang pangit talaga yung proseso para mag-intervene yung judge. So sasabihin, you know what? Ignore that. Order ko na to. Papalitan ko. Ako magde-decide. Ganyan.
Oh,
Bihirang
wow.
mangyari yun. Bihirang
Okay.
mangyari yun. Yung case na standard dyan is yung tinatawag na Baker. Baker in Canada. Any law student in Canada will learn this actually. So si Baker, Jamaican, tapos nung na-refuse, nakuha yung officer's notes, abay, napaka-racist ng mga notes ng officer. Grabe. So talagang parang kapag nanalo ka sa court, ang mangyayari kasi normally kapag nanalo ka sa appeal mo sa court, ibabalik lang yan sa IRCC. So, as a special remedy, hiningi nila dun sa korte na kapag binalik nyo kami dun, ganun din. Diba? Babalik kami dun sa officer or sa iba pang officer or same office na pwedeng racist din, di ba? Pero hindi na naman fair yung ganong characterization. Pero ang ginawa ng ang judge, because napaka-extraordinary ng circumstances. Kapag nabasa mo kasi yung decision, masyashock ka. Parang hindi siya befitting of a government employee of Canada. Na talagang yung judge mismo, pinalitan niya, inapprove niya. Di ba? Bihirang-bihira yun. Ganun yung mga situations na pwede. Pero yung sa Mandamus, last point, kailangan sobrang delayed. Sobrang delayed dapat.
Ayan, actually yung question ko. Paano nila masasabi na sobrang delayed? Pupunta ba sila doon sa IRCC kapag lumampas na doon? Ano ba?
Sorry, tumalsik ang tubig.
Go.
So the first parang Marco Rubio, no? First thing na gagawin mo is kung IRCC ka, kaya actually napag-usapan natin to sa backstage kanina, 'di ba? Kaya itong IRCC pinublish na nila yung mga waiting times nila, yung average processing times for different types of application. Kasi doon ang basehan. So ang ginagawa ko in my practice, Ina, kapag nagsasubmit ako ng any type of application, halimbawa PR via Express Entry, for example, Canadian Experience Class, bukod dun sa ibibigay ko yung acknowledgement of receipt, letter, and documents na sinabit sa client ko, pupunta din ako sa website ng immigration. Pupunta ako dun sa processing timeline tool, ipiprint ko yung processing time for that type of application. Isasama ko dun sa document package ng kliyente ko. Bakit? Kasi para kapag sobrang delay talaga, normal processing time for express entry, 6 months. Pero kung sobrang delay, halimbawa inabot ng 1.5 taon, at that point, pwede ka nang pumunta sa court and ask for a mandamus order. Kasi parang bakit ang tagal nangyari dito? Ito basically yung term ni Andrew, it's to basically unstick, to get your file unstuck. Ganun.
Yeah.
Pero be careful sinabi ko kasi 1.5 year. Yung 1.5 year na yan, kung titignan nyo yung normal processing na express entry na 6 months, 2 times over, almost 3 times nung normal. So, ano ba yung standard? Kailangan sobrang haba na talaga. So, halimbawa, ang normal processing time for a provincial nomination right now is about 1 to 2 years. Diba? So, kapag 2 years na, 2 years and 1 day na lumampas ka, pwede ka na ba mag-mandamus application sa court? I would say no. And the reason for that is kailangan sumobra-sobra tong IRCC kasi it's an extraordinary remedy. And the problem with the federal court right now is sobrang backlog din ng court. So backlog si IRCC, itong court din backlog. And yun nga yung pinupukpok namin sa IRCC ngayon. Sinabi rin namin to sa House of Commons noon pa, 2021 pa lang, nung first time ako nag-testify. Sinabi ko na wait, bakit ginagawa niyong back office ng immigration ang federal court? Ginagawa niyong officers ng mga judges? Kasi ang nangyayari, ang majority ng cases ng federal court ngayon, Ina, I'm not sure if you know, but they're related mostly mandamus. Dahil nga ang bagal ng IRCC. So, kailangan talaga yung case mo exceptional para manalo ka. So,
is there a rule of thumb? I-times 2 mo yung processing time, doon ka lang pwede, may ganun ba?
Yeah, case per case basis of course, pero I would probably start with the times 2. Tapos titignan mo kung ano yung circumstances ng aplikante, titignan mo kung ano rin yung type of program. Ito na siguro yung excellent segue, di ba? Kasi nung isang episode, napag-usapan natin yung humanitarian and compassionate grounds applications, it's processing more than 10 years. Di ba? So, maaring 10 years ito. Pero, parang isipin mo yung sitwasyon na napaka-inhuman na 10 years ka naghihintay na walang estado yung, di ba?
Segue na natin nga papunta dyan. So, na-discuss na ni Attorney Lou yung options, 3, no? Yung web form, Ano yung pangalawa ulit? Nawala na agad sa isip ko.
MP. MP.
Ha?
Si
The
MP.
MPs and then going to the court for
Mhm.
mandamus order. By the way, mahal ba magpatulong sa abogado para dun sa mandamus order petition?
Depende kung sinong abogadong kausap nyo. Kami, we package things typically anywhere between 5 to 10,000 kung ano talaga.
Grabe. Oo, mabigat
Depende,
yan.
kasi sobrang ano yun yung process na yun, you have to understand, it takes 2 years yung
Right.
mandamus din. And bukod dyan,
Okay.
kailangan aralin namin yung file. Paano kung ganun kakapal yung agency application ninyo? Tapos pupunta tayo sa korte, tapos hindi namin kabisado, mapapahiya ka sa judge.
Oo.
Papahiya ka ng judge. Pagka ganun,
Oo,
magmumukha kang clown.
Got it. So, ayan na, alam niyo na yung facts kung gusto niya i-consider yung pagpunta sa korte. By the way, teka muna, may nakalimutan ako. Bago natin pag-usapan yung mga extremely long processing times na nasa portal ng IRCC. Guys, tignan niyo to. By the way, congratulations kay Attorney Lou. He made it! He made it! Dito sa tinatawag na Lexpert. Ang kanyang profile ay kasama na dito. Kumbaga, this is a portal of, I would say, talagang trustworthy immigration lawyers all throughout Canada. Ewan ko, natitingin ako ng picture, parang ilan lang siguro mga Pilipino, if not, ikaw pala nakita kong Filipino profile dito, at least sa current roster, ano? Congrats,
Well,
Attorney Lou.
sa roster
Oo.
ng immigration lawyers across Canada for Lexpert, I think I'm the only one. Kasi I think more than half of the kung i-filter mo by immigration yan, halos kalahati kakilala ko actually. Pero yun nga, yeah, thank you for bringing it up and I appreciate
Ibig
it. Parang,
sabihin, nasa ano ka na talaga, no? Nandun ka na sa matataas na antas ng mga immigration lawyers dito. Nakasulat dito, merong parang note na repeatedly recommended. And I think by your colleagues, by other immigration
Yes.
lawyers, right?
Kasi yung Lexpert kasi, ano siya, it's a ratings agency, may editorial. Pero once na ma-figure out na nila yan, kailangan nyo mag-nominate. So, hindi ka pwede mag-self-nominate dito. Kailangan na mag-nominate sa'yo. Kailangan, parang known member of the bar din na parang kailangan, din sila, of note din yung magre-recommend sa'yo. Kaya hinahanap ko nga kung sino nag-recommend sa akin dito. Wala pa rin umaamin.
Buti naman hindi pwede mag-ano dito, no? Merong ibang mga ratings, rankings, yung mga awardings na kailangan mo mag-self-nominate. Nakakaloka, no? Ito, you are reviewed by your peers, basically. Okay. Congrats,
may pagka-popularity din siya. Pero in the end, binabalanse nila ng tawag dito, may editorial board sila, tapos wini-weigh nila yung mga factors, which is quite interesting. Pero yun nga, thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. Sige, balik na tayo sa topic natin.
Sige.
Guys, tingnan natin ano ba tong mga specific pathways or applications na talagang mapapaisip ka, hindi yata tama ito. Unahin na natin sa caregivers. March 2025, yung last intake. Okay?
Citizenship ulit yan.
81 months left. This is more than 6 years.
81 divided by 12.
It's like more than
7 years. Almost 7.
Papunta ng 7 years. Parang, seriously, okay pa ba ito? Considering that the applicant likely is already inside Canada waiting. Sasabihin, ito na yung within within standard time, 7 years. Like, is that even reasonable? This long? Normal ba to, Lou? Ganitong waiting time?
I mean, ultimately, this is a political question. This is administratively kasi, meron lang tayong certain numbers of slots for permanent residents na dinedetermine ng bureaucracy at the direction of our political leaders. So, kaya ako sinabi siyang political question. So, kung hindi kayo masaya dito, at ito nga yung ginagawa ng mga caregiver migrant advocacy. In fact, some of them reached out to them and yung mga nakikinig sa akin dito na part ng organization na yun, I'm so sorry, hindi pa ako nakaka-respond. Sobrang dami kong emails. Magre-respond din po ako. Pero yun nga yung point is like, this is a political question, political pressure sa mga politicians natin, sa mga MPs natin. Yung question ni Ina, makatarungan ba ito Lagay nyo dun sa mga officers. Kasi we're looking at it, kasi Pilipino, diba? We're looking at it
Oo.
from the perspective of yung mga aplikante na mga Pinoy. Pero tignan nyo rin siya, ha, sa perspective ng mga employers. Hindi din ba makatarungan din ba sa kanila na hindi sila makakuha ng caregiver, hindi nila matulungan yung kanilang empleyado? Hindi din tama in
Oo,
my
oo.
opinion. So, hindi to narrow na nasa Pilipino lang. Yun yung ibig ko sabihin. Kasi Canadian families also rely on this particular program so that
Right.
they can advance their families like care structure, di ba?
Yeah. O,
Ay,
another one na medyo balita ko problematic, no? Nakakwento mo sa akin minsan. Ito, yung sa startup visa.
nako.
Okay. Give us a briefer nga. Sino ba nag-a-apply nitong startup visa na ito? For example, ano na
So,
lang, mid last year lalagay kong application nila, ha?
Naku, lagay mo
Startup
2023.
visa. Oh, more than 10 years!
Lagay mo kasi 2023.
Bakit? Oh, 2023? Bakit? What's with 2023?
Try mo. Or 2021 siguro, ganun.
Processing time, June. Ganun din. More
Ganun
than
pa
10
rin.
years.
Try mo 2021. Kasi pinaglalaroan kayo ng isang araw.
59
Ayun.
months left kapag 2021.
Oh, at least. At least 4 na taon. Ilang taon
Oh,
ba
then
yun?
tell us first.
No,
Okay,
5
sino
years.
ba nag-apply nitong startup visa na to?
So yung mga high net worth individuals na willing to set up a startup venture in Canada, pero the way that they designed this program is quite tellingly problematic kasi it's trying to be everything but then they didn't really specify kung ano yung specific objectives ng program. So sabog yung lumabas. Another immigration lawyer, he's originally from Montreal but he lives in Vancouver. He's super critical of this program. His name is Richard Kurland. So yung mga nakikinig ng mga practitioners dyan, you'll probably hear that name bounced around. He's very steeped in litigation. And yun nga, yung cases niya kadalasan surrounding around the SUV. Si Zainab din, another friend of mine, she works in this particular space when it comes to business immigration and litigation for delays, mandamus ng mga SUV applications. So yung goal is like to bring in business people, high net worth individual, para dadali nila yung capital nila sa Canada, di ba? At mag-i-invest. Ang structure na ginawa nila is kailangan may partner designated organization ka sa Canada. And hindi ako magne-name ng names kasi ayokong mademanda. Pero yung naririnig kong mga ugong-ugong is parang ang daming mga partner organizations supposedly di umano allegedly na daw parang binebenta lang talaga yung kanilang backing in order for people to submit an application. So in other words, naging minefield siya ng shall we say like fraud? I don't want to call it fraud directly, pero medyo questionable yung mga applications. Kaya yung scrutiny sa SUV matindi. And ang daming refusals. Pero ang nangyayari, Ina, imaginein mo kung ganyan katagal yung processing times. Kasi isa sa requirement ng program, pupunta ka ng Canada habang pinaprocess yung sa PR. Tapos may work permit ka. May pera ka nang pinasok sa Canada, dinala mo na yung pamilya mo, tapos nag-invest ka na sa Canada, may work permit ka, temporary ang status nyo, tapos andito na kayo ilang taon, sabihin mo mga 4 na taon, 5 taon na kayo kasi ang bagal nga, di ba? Tapos biglang sasabihin sa'yo ng IRCC, no, get out.
Oo, parang una sa lahat, iniwan ko na nga pera ko ditong malaki ha, and I mean, I can assume medyo malaking pera ang involved dito.
We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars here.
Exactly, no?
I will tell you, I've talked
may ganitong delay. It's like,
I've
it's not right.
I've talked to people who have come into this program. Sabi nila, bakit pa ako umalis ng Abu Dhabi? Bakit pa ako umalis ng Dubai? 'Di ba? Tapos una sa lahat sa UAE, tax-free pa sila, 'di ba? Maayos naman ang buhay nila. So parang sila naghanap kasi sila ng second citizenship. They're not necessarily from a strong passport country. So nakita nila yung opening sa Canada. Pero parang ang labo kasi nung patakbo ng SUV from the get-go. So, yun nga. As early as 2021, nung nakausap ko si Richard, may conference. So sabi ko, Richard, dito tayo sa corner, usap tayo. Tapos kinakwentuhan ko siya about dun sa artificial intelligence kasi curious din siya. Tapos kinakwentuhan niya ako about SUV. Doon ko rin lang nalaman, Ina, na parang, oh my God, napaka-problematic pala nitong programa na to. Not from me, but from Richard, na parang even yung mga tao doon sa loob ng SUV program ng IRCC, parang hindi rin nila alam kung ano yung direksyon.
Right.
So,
okay.
Yun parang ang dami ng indicators, ang dami ng red flags. So, kasi marami na nag-approach sa akin nun, like, can you help me with an SUV? I'm like, won't touch it with a 10-foot pole. If you really want to work with it, like, I will pass you to someone who knows the program really well, number one, and knows like the problems with it para bibigyan kayo ng honest assessment. By the way, I don't know if that's me or you. No, it's me. Sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And of course, another pathway na may napakahabang processing time. Ito na yung isa sa mga unang nire-report, na yung sa HNC, guys, no? More than 10 years. Okay.
Oh my God, yes.
More than 10 years. Grabe, no? I mean, if sasabihin natin na pupunta sa korte para dun sa mandamus order, so kailangan maghintay pa ako ng 10 years bago ko i-consider yun kasi yung nakalagay dito na standard processing time. But I'm sorry, like, kahit pa HNC to, baka sabihin nung iba, usually, mga yan, baka out of status na sila yung mag-HNC. Regardless, having a processing time to me na isang dekada is just, it's not right.
That is precisely it. So, alam mo ba, two things. Number one, as I said, it's not necessarily a legal question anymore. Kasi kung pupunta ka nga sa court, yun din ang sasabihin sa'yo ng court. Like, why are you jumping the line? Ang dami ring ibang matagal na naghihintay, diba? So parang, from a legal perspective, ito yung standard Ano magagawa natin? So yun.
Pero ano ba yun? It's just not...
So it's a political choice. As I said, it's the levels plan. Diba? The levels plan prescribes X number of thousands of slots for HNC, diba? So, kung ipaprocess natin yun with that number per year, tapos yung supply madami, so ibig sabihin talaga madedelay talaga. Naalala ko, tinanong ako ni MP Brunel Duceppe in French, makatarungan ba to mga processing times na to, na yung buhay nga ng mga tao? This is what I was saying from the beginning, that this is less a legal question, this is more a political question. Kasi hindi na to question ng makatarungan pa ba to? Fair pa ba to? Ang tanong dito is, makatao pa ba to? Diba?
Now, so, eto na, okay? Dahil kalahating oras na tayo sa topic na to. There are people, I know, lalo na yung mga unang dumating dito, no? Sinasabi nila lagi na, ay nako, puro kayo reklamo. Ganyan naman talaga. Kami rin, noon, we had to wait like several years bago kami nakarinig mula sa Canada at naging landed PR kami. That is a common sentiment amongst those who came in pretty early. One big difference I would say is that at that time kasi, yung matagal din, ilang taon din sila naghintay, they were at least waiting in their own countries. Wala pa sila dito na namumroblema na ma-out of status sila. I mean, the immigration system has changed from that time. The landed PR concept is not the norm like it was before.
Legally speaking, it is still
available.
It's still available. Pero it's no, your observations are very astute. Kasi I think it was in hindi siya congressional hearing pero I don't know if you've talked about this, pero yung mga congressional staffers sa US back in 2020, na-invite kami ni Will Tao to basically give a briefing to US congressional staffers then on, how the immigration system in Canada works. So, yung isa sa mga pinasok ko sa presentation ko is that when Express Entry was introduced in Canada, it was supposed to address the backlog for the Federal Skilled Worker Program na yung processing times nga were 6 years, di ba? So, tapos kinancel nila yung mga application, apply kayo ulit sa Express Entry, processing time should be 6 months. Okay, fine. Pero kasi, nung time na yun, Canada was using the Temporary Foreign Worker Program to begin with. Pero ang napansin natin, because of the introduction of Express Entry, naging competitive and because of how it's structured, it encouraged a lot of people to come to Canada as temporary residents first. Kasi nga points-based, di ba? And if you gain Canadian experience, if you have a job offer in Canada, you've been in Canada for a certain number of years, mas malakas yung chances mo for permanent residence under the existing programs when Express Entry was introduced.
Exactly.
So yung point mo kanina, the people before then, at the very least, had the, the luxury, shall we call it
Hindi
now?
sila mawawala ng status. Alam mo yun? Hindi sila magiging
kasi sila sa labas. naghintay sila sa country of citizenship nila or even maybe sa Middle East na guest worker
Yeah.
sila, na meron silang continuous source of income, may stability sila. Ito kasi yan 2 points.
Mhm.
Stability, and number 2 is yung predictability. Actually,
Yeah.
again, yung tanong ni MP Brunel Dussep sa akin nun is in French, prévisibilité, which is
Mhm.
predictability in English. Ang ibig
Right.
sabihin nito, kapag nakita mo itong rules ng Canada, predictable ba siya? Susundan ba siya? At kapag ginawa mo to, pak, labas neto, PR ka. Ang
Oo.
problema, nung simula, ang ganda, okay, so fine.
Mhm.
Pero since the pandemic, we have not had policy calm. Diba?
Mhm.
And understandably, like, granted, nagka-pandemic, so talagang kailangan taob mesa, kailangan ayusin yung problema na walang pumapasok sa Canada. Kasi nga, principally back then, ang main source ng permanent residence, federal skilled worker. Pero
Right.
noong 2020, itong si Minister Mendicino reached out to stakeholders including the CBA, asked for solutions. So sabi na nga, ang daming foreign nationals in Canada na naghihintay. So yun yung malaking express entry draw na yung cut-off score was 75. So ginawa nila yun, tapos nag-introduce sila ng TR to PR pathway. Pero parang nawili yung gobyerno natin na puro mga pilot program, puro
Oo.
mga special measures, parang parang bang, 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 ganun lang, di ba?
Yeah.
Imbis na nag-govern ka from a position of stability and position of strength, parang kung ano yung mapusuan mo, nagising ako parang, gigising ako. Tapos, gumawa kaya ako ng TR to PR ngayon, pero
Cancel
gusto
natin
ko,
tong isa. Buksan natin to.
mag-TR to PR tayo. Sara natin yun, pero kailangan yung minimum qualification ng TR to PR. Kailangan minimum 5'7" ka. Ganon.
Oo.
Pero sobrang random, nakakaloka. So parang sasabihin ko sa'yo, like from the perspective of applicants, grabe to. Kasi
I know.
manginginig ka, hindi mo alam kung anong gagawin mo. And from our
Correct.
perspective as immigration practitioners, as immigration lawyers, na syempre yung mga tao umaasa sa amin na kabisado dapat namin yung programa, for the most part yes, kung stable yung programa. Ang problema, the last 6 years, para akong tumanda ng 10 taon. Parang HNC processing time. Dahil grabe talaga yung parang next day biglang may bago, biglang may sumabog, ganyan. Ang hilig nga sa vlog ko, last point. Sa vlog ko, si Mark Holthy, sabi niya, di ba, the liberal government loves yung marquee policy na sinasplash nila. Di ba? In the spring, more details are coming. Sabi niya doon, can we stop with that? Can we just have boring, predictable? Kasi at least yung mga tao, alam nila kung paano i-plano yung buhay nila. So,
correct.
yung point mo kanina, yung mga sinaunang ninuno na, kami din naman naghintay. Iba po yung larangan ngayon, promise.
Correct.
Kasi ako din noon pa.
Yeah, I like that you raised. I
Sorry.
like that you raised the fact na the current system actually incentivizes people to come in first as temporary to boost their chances of being drawn sa express entry. Kaya marami nga naman kasi may extra points if you have Canadian experience. In a way, they're being encouraged na pasok ka muna temporary tapos ka mag-apply for permanent residency. Because, again, I like that you raised it because it is the answer to those saying that temporary is supposed to be temporary. Yun na yun. Hindi It's not as simple as that.
It's not black and white, guys.
It's a systemic problem Okay? Systemic problem na ano ba, tama ba yun o hindi? Well, ito na yung sistema na meron ngayon. Okay, kailangan nilang ayusin yan kapag kung sumobra naman yung temporary residence. And I think it's the same problematic system that is causing all these extraordinary processing times, right?
I think you're absolutely right.
May mismanagement din sa dami ng tinanggap naman nila na temporary residents na ang dami naman doon. Obviously, hindi naman talaga pasok doon sa allocations for PR. So, ang daming kailangan ayusin. But anyway, yun na. Okay, sana naliwanagan kayo sa realidad kung bakit nasa ganitong sitwasyon ngayon ng maraming kababayan natin. Okay? Na may problema sa kanilang status dahil naipit na dito sa processing times nga. Okay, so we will end this episode here. Lou, thank you so much again. We'll see you guys
in the
next one. Bye!